Hey look, there's a new Spider-Man out. It's called Brand New Day, but it's the 9th Spider-Man movie. We've been doing this for 24 years. If you listen closely, you can hear the collective sound of Marvel fanboys frothing at the mouth, brick hard at the prospect of Peter Parker standing next to the Hulk for 3 seconds in a trailer.
I didn't know you could get that big.
The studio promise for this one was simple: a course correction, a return to basics, a broke Peter Parker in a crappy apartment fighting street-level crime, a desperate attempt to recapture the friction and grit of the early 2000s. But the trailer shows us that they've panicked. They kicked down the door of that crappy apartment and violently shoehorned in Frank Castle and Bruce Banner. Because in 2026, Marvel doesn't have the balls to just make a classic Spider-Man movie. I don't want to review Brand New Day. Reviewing this movie is like reviewing the structural integrity of a McDonald's cheeseburger. Instead, I want to look at the 24-year timeline of how we got here. Because if you track the history of Spider-Man on film, you can trace my entire life. You can watch the jaded, weary cynicism of growing old slowly strip away the wonder and joy of cinema. You're tracking the exact timeline of a movie lover learning to see through the matrix, watch the art form die, and realise exactly how the slop is pumped out. Welcome to my brand new journal. 2002, I'm about 18 years old, and this is the baseline. Sam Raimi made the first Spider-Man, and superhero movies were not a guaranteed golden goose. They still had to prove they're real cinema. And at 18, I was there looking at the screen in wonder. They made this film with earnestness, complete, unironic, post 9/11 earnestness. Willem Dafoe wasn't winking at the camera. When Uncle Ben said, "With great power comes great responsibility," it wasn't a meta joke. And physically, they actually swung a guy in a tactile suit through a physical set. It had weight, it had magic. And then we cut 2 years forward, 2004, to the fulcrum. Spider-Man 2 is the absolute ceiling of what this genre can achieve when art and commerce are finely balanced. Look at the filmmaking. Look at Alfred Molina. Those 16-foot tentacles were actual physical puppets weighing 75 pounds. They had mass, they had inertia. Molina had to physically act against their momentum. When Raimi shot the hospital sequence, he didn't call a VFX house to render it in a server farm. He shot a practical horror scene straight out of his Evil Dead catalogue. The director was supreme and the joy of cinema was entirely intact. 17 years later, they brought Molina back for No Way Home, but he's a completely frictionless, digitally de-aged face floating on a CGI body against a green screen. That single character's devolution is the exact visual diagnosis of what's happening to the industry.
Spider-Pig does whatever a Spider-Pig does.
And then we cut to 2007. I'm like 23 now, tearing tickets at the local cinema and physically watching the crowds line up for Spider-Man 3. And this is the exact moment I start to see the code in the Matrix. I see the machinery of the industry break the filmmaker. It's the beginning of the Bloke. Sony forced Venom into the movie to sell toys. We're watching a studio mandate pump out its first real bucket of manufactured slop. Sam Raimi fought for creative control, lost to the merchandising department, and eventually walked away from the franchise entirely because he refused to shoot a script he didn't believe in. The studios learned a valuable lesson that day. Never give a director that much power again. Because by 2012 the auteur was dead, replaced by the IP farm. The Amazing Spider-Man existed purely so Sony didn't lose the copyright. It wasn't a movie, it was a legal maneuver designed up as a gritty reboot. 2017, I'm 33, my daughter's born. The wonder is entirely gone, my perspective shifts. I'm now looking at this media landscape through a father's eyes, realising she's inheriting a cinematic world stripped of craft and physicalness. We enter the synergy area, the irony-poisoned Reddit comment era of screenwriting, where characters constantly point out how silly the tropes are.
I'm still like that you fought an alien in space.
I'm lame.
Peter Parker's stripped of his working class independence to become Iron Man's intern. The tactile filmmaking of 2002 is replaced by the volume and suits aren't sewn, they're rendered. And the ultimate punchline is the Sam Raimi tragedy. In 2022, he returns to Marvel to direct Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. But he's not a filmmaker anymore. He's a middle manager, shooting scenes for characters he doesn't understand. He's just shepherding actors between green screens for cameos while Kevin Feige makes the movie. Which brings us to today, 2026. I'm a little older, I'm a little wiser. starting to get hair in really weird
places, man. I feel like I'm turning into Sasquatch.
And we've got Brand New Day on our screens. Why did they shove the Hulk and Punisher into what was supposed to be a standalone back-to-basic Spider-Man movie? Because of fear. They're terrified because they know a dark secret that Tom Holland is desperately trying to ignore. He's entirely dependent on Spider-Man for his A-list status. And you can watch it happen in real time this summer, because Holland's doing a double shift. He's in Nolan's Odyssey as Telemachus, and he's good. Genuinely good. As long as the part is the boy standing his father's shadow, unable to step up. The second the film asks him to be brave, it evaporates. He can play the absence of courage, he cannot play arriving at it. And you could argue that's the role, but the role has to land somewhere and he never gets there. He's a spider boy. Maguire was a broke adult. Garfield had something wounded and deep inside him. Holland is the nadir of name casting. You get Tom Holland, but you don't get the performance that a Josh O'Connor or a Barry Keoghan would have walked in with. I'm 42 and I can see the Matrix for exactly what it is. Brand New Day is not a return to form. It's going to be the latest calculated algorithm from a studio pretending to care about cinema, trying to artificially manufacture the grit of a 24-year-old movie they physically do not know how to make anymore. And the worst part, the reason they do this, the reason that Alfred Molina's tentacles were replaced by a digital void, and the reason movie stars have been replaced by theme park mascots, you, me, we did this. We bought the tickets, we validated the slop. Enjoy the new Spider-Man. I'm sure the Hulk gets angry.
Would you like to know more?